This is Kaneki, and you're watching the cooperative. Fuck, what is it? This is Kaneki, and you're watching the cooperative podcast.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to the cooperative experience. Today we have another interview with Mr. Austin Tindle. He is the man of the hour. Austin, if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, my name's Austin Tindle. I'm a voice actor, and that's about it.
All right, so we have a few members with us today. We have Mr. Yu Kirby.
Hi there.
Awesome. And Renegade Operative.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We also have Kaneki, strangely enough named after your character in Tokyo Ghoul, Austin.
Yep. All right.
He is my
big fan.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Well,
we also have Brandon.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. I was taking care of some chores, but glad to be here.
And last but not least, Devil Hunter James.
What's up, Jeff?
Who is coming through very low because Skype is terrible.
Skype, why do you hate me? This is not the time.
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, I can kind of hear you there. But I suppose we should go ahead and get this show on the road. We were starting off with question one. To break the ice, or let's start off with your experience with being a voice actor. What personal tips would you suggest to the viewers instead of, interested in the voiceover work?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is, at least for me, voice acting is acting. So even if you got a mic and you're at home practicing and stuff, it's always good to take an acting class. For me, theater was a huge help because in theater, you're forced to get up on stage in front of a bunch of people and kind of expose yourself to your fears and get yourself out of your comfort zone, which is the best place to be when you're acting. It elicits the most natural responses. And the more shows you do, the more opportunities you have to practice scenes with other people, the better you get at realizing how you yourself naturally react to things. I think early actors have a habit of imitating other people or trying to create an emotion based on what they think that emotion is. But really the best acting comes when you do something that you don't expect. And that's just me. All roads lead to Mecca. There's so many different types of actors out there that have different techniques, but for me, it's all about figuring out how I naturally respond to something and being sensitive, relaxed, and present in the moment to be able to respond naturally to the fictional narrative that's happening in front of me.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Does anybody want to take question number 2?
I can do it.
All right.
So, how long have you been doing voice acting work, and could you list off some of your characters that you have done in detail with your favorite?
Gosh, woo. Favorites are always difficult. It's like trying to choose between children. And let's see, I've been acting professionally in Dallas, Texas for about 12 years. Most of that was on stage. Somewhere around 2008, I started doing small bit parts for Funimation. So that's kind of when my voice acting started. And my first role was probably around, 2009 or maybe 2010. God, has it been that long? Maybe it was 2011. But my first big role was Ayumu in Is This a Zombie?
Great
so
series.
If you watch that show, that's kind of me learning how to be a voice actor. Then other big roles that came after that, I played Shu in Guilty Crown. I played the leads in Bento, Defrag, Princess Stride, Tomo no Rin. Most recently, and probably most famously, I was Kaneki in Tokyo Ghoul. I was Karma in Assassination Classroom. I was Marco Bot in Attack on Titan. I was Kiyoshi in Prison School. One of my favorite roles that I've ever done is in a show called Snow White with the red hair. It's out for streaming. I don't know if the DVDs come out yet, but
I believe
it's a
that's
really
next
great.
month, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
It's a really great show. The character's name is Obi, and he's got this kind of Han Solo, Lancelot, mysterious background. He's the fighter. He's the jokester. He's chaotic neutral. He can be the lover, but he can also be super serious. And he's just kind of a super badass. So he was one of the most fun characters to play. Some of the best times that I had was in a show called Tomo Noreen, which very few people have seen. It's a really odd show about this young boy who lives in an agricultural school. He just learns about farming, and he's obsessed with this pop star who she runs away from fame and ends up moving to his town and going to his school. And it's a little love triangle drama, but it is very goofy and silly, and I got to play a funny voice. And we laughed the whole time during that show. That was directed with Mike McFarland, and we just had a great time the whole time.
Nice.
Gosh,
I've never actually heard of that show.
Yeah, most people haven't. There's a lot of roles. It's hard to keep up with them. I played Accelerator in a certain magical index. That was kind of my.
That was actually my favorite role you were in, honestly.
Thank you. That one was really cool because we did a certain magical index, and that was my first time playing a character like that. So I was kind of nervous, especially because the Japanese actor does amazing things with his voices and his screams, and trying to learn how to keep up with that or pay respect to that was difficult. What was really cool is they came back the next year with a certain scientific railgun, and that show is kind of a sequel, but basically it's the same storyline from the perspective of a different person, a different character, a different protagonist. Yeah, so you end up seeing some of the exact same scenes, but in my opinion, they were written a little bit better, and I just had a little bit more control over the character. So I always tell people, like, if you really want to see, like, my favorite version of Accelerator, go watch Railgun, and he has more depth of a character in that one, because in that one, I don't want to spoil it too much, but he ends up befriending one of the clones, like a baby version of Mikasa, and you see this change in him where he starts to become more of a protagonist, hero, protector, and I love characters like that. That's the reason I liked Obi too. They're this chaotic neutral character where you don't know if they're evil or good, and they're fighting on different sides, and it makes it more complex. It's not like a one-dimensional character that has one idea about what's going on. Other notable characters, I think people are pretty into Seraph of the End, so I was in that. I played Volley in High School DxD, which some people are into. Hitalia is a really big show. I don't have a big part, but I play Saborja, and he's from Italy, so some people dig that. God, what else? I should have pulled this up on the internet because there's
it's fun.
There's a bunch of different ones. If you've seen Boy and the Beast recently, was a movie that came out in theaters, and I played Ishiro Hiko. He's like the secondary main villain. He's like the son of the antagonist, and has some really great parts. So that was really fun to do as well. And then there's a bunch of others.
Yeah, it's definitely a long list. But I think we're gonna move on. Does anybody want to take question number 3?
I'll take it.
All right.
All right. Tell us about your experience with Tokyo Ghoul and what are your thoughts on the role of Kaneki?
Yes, please.
Well, I think he's a really interesting character. In some ways, he's a common trope that you see in anime. He's a young boy who doesn't have any parental guidance, suddenly given more power and responsibility that he knows how to deal with, and he's stuck between two worlds trying to figure out what to do best, discovering more about himself and changing in the process. He reminds me of Shu from Guilty Crown, and I think Guilty Crown actually helped prepare me for Tokyo Ghoul. But I really love that show, uh, partially because of the amazing artwork that's involved, but also they don't waste any time with the storytelling. And I haven't read the manga myself. I know that there's a lot of differences that end up happening, but just if you watch the show and if you watch Route A, which is technically the second season, uh, Kaneki goes through so many changes and the relationships that he has with Toka and with Sukiyama, like they don't waste any time. It seems like it's this gory, suspense filled show, but really I think it's a lot about relationships. And you don't have one of those episodes where everybody like goes to a food festival or goes to the beach. Like there's no filler. It's all getting straight to the point, which I really enjoyed, just watching that transformation and being able to be a part of that. And on top of that, I think the show is kind of a beautiful. You get this a lot with certain animes, but it's a beautiful metaphor for something that I think everyone can relate to, which is kind of just the internal struggle that we all have. You know, what it's like growing up and suddenly finding that there's a part of yourself that you have to deal with. You know, some monster inside yourself that you're not necessarily proud of, but you have to come to terms with the fact that it's a part of you. And how do you make that a positive? And you can relate it to all sorts of struggles that people have in their lives. A lot of times I talk about how I think it's a great metaphor for all sorts of mental illnesses that people have to go through, where suddenly, you know, there's a chemical imbalance inside yourself that you're trying to deal with. It feels like a different part of you, but it really is you, and you have to come to terms with that and learn how to control it and make your life better because of it. And for me, a lot of it ended up being very personal, even though, you know, it's about a ghoul eating humans. There are certain scenes, especially towards the end of season 1, you know, where he's remembering what it was like being with his mom and watching his mom sacrifice herself, and learning that as Rize says, like true power is, you know, being able to take care of yourself really and do the things that are hard to do and difficult to do. And that can relate to, you know, relationships in everyone's lives. Those times when you have to say, like, you know what, I need to take care of myself and I can't be a part of this anymore. And that moment when he's like sitting there remembering his mother and just kind of crying out about why she wasn't there for him and why she chose to sacrifice herself for all these other people. Like, why didn't you choose me, is a big thing that he says. And that like really touched me and came from a very personal place. So it wasn't hard to kind of find the emotion for that, because it very much related to lots of experiences I've had in my own life.
Yeah, I definitely thought near the end of the first season was like the most emotional moments of it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with that, we should move on to number 4. Is there a series that you ever wanted to do voiceover work for but never got a chance?
I mean, as an actor, I selfishly want to play all the roles. So, yes. It's hard to even pick one. You know, My Hero Academia came up, and I really wanted a bigger part in that. But I mean, every time a show comes out, it's an interesting thing. You know, the responsible thing as an actor is to realize your own limitations, and also to respect the choices of the director, because they do this for a living and they know what's right. So, like, even though there are certain roles that I really wanted to play, you know, like I wanted to be in Devil as a part-timer, I wanted to be in Future Diary, but the only thing worse than wanting a role really badly and not getting it is if you get a role and then do a horrible job and all the fans hate you for it. So I always, I always trust my director and make sure and know that they have my best interest in mind and that they're trying to tell the best story they can. So the more mature I get, the more I try to realize, like, okay, the parts that are right for me are the parts that are going to come to me. And this always happens as an actor too. Whenever you walk into a room and you're just desperate for a role, I mean, this doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's just kismet and it's right for you. But whenever I walk into that audition space and I'm like, I want this character so badly, I pretty much never get that character. But in general, if I walk into a room and I'm like, well, there's no way this is going to happen, suddenly, boom, there I am. Like with Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul, I walked in and I was like, okay, well, this, I'm not even going to worry about this because this is too big. So, which is the best place to be as an actor, is if you're relaxed, then you're not thinking about it too much. You're just kind of reacting, and that ends up leading to the best possible kind of outcomes that you can have.
Number 5. Okay. Does somebody want to read that off?
I'll do it. Is there a role you've done that you felt was very underrated in regards to its reception?
I guess I would go back to Tomo Noreen because no one's ever seen it, and it's one of my favorite roles ever because I just think it's funny, and it's very rare, like that I get to do a voice that's very different from my own. I get a lot of YouTube criticisms because people are always like, Austin sounds exactly the same in all of his roles. It's like, well, yeah, I pretty much always play a 17-year-old kid that suddenly gets superpowers, and there's only so many ways that you can do that. You don't want to like give him a random lisp or make him too high or raspy for no good reason. You know, Defrag was a slightly different voice, but for the most part, they're looking for, and that's the cool thing about Funimation and anime in general is it's not like a lot of American cartoons where they're like looking for a bit goofy accent to do something totally crazy. Like they want real actors, you know, they want real actors doing stuff that's real. I mean, sometimes like when I was in One Piece, that was a little exaggerated because it's One Piece. But Tomo Noreen was one of my favorites. Not too many people are in love with Obi, but I dig that one a lot. Gosh, what other shows have I done recently? There's a show. I don't think I'm allowed to tell anyone about this yet, but there's a show coming out tomorrow. Keep your eyes and ears peeled because it's going to be a simulcast dub that's coming out that will feature me, and it's going to be really, really awesome. And I don't know if I can tell you the name, but it'll be announced and it'll be released on streaming at Funimation, possibly in Crunchyroll too, tomorrow.
Mm.
So
I'm looking forward to that. I can't imagine what it would be, but I'll keep my eyes open for that one.
Here, I'll Google it right now and see if they say my name. If they say my name, then I can tell you it.
All right.
Anyway, what else you got for me?
All right. I guess we should move on to question number 6.
I'll take that.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
What's your personal favorite video game or anime character in terms of look, voice, and presentation?
I have a lot of favorites. Yeah, they haven't announced it yet, so I can't tell you.
Right.
Okay. One of my favorite games is The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, dude, I agree with you. That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, not just because the gameplay works out really well, the game mechanics are always really nice, but it goes back to the truer form of acting that I'm really familiar with, which is being on stage and being in theater. So the way that they recorded that, I don't know if a lot of people know this, and Troy Baker is like freaking amazing, of course. And oh gosh, what's her name? Ashley Johnson, who plays the other lead. All the cut scenes that take place. Basically, what they did is they put the characters in motion cap suits, and then they set up in a big 3D motion cap room. They set up just tables and chairs and boxes to represent all the little like weird things that they're moving over and moving around. And these characters actually rehearse the scenes together in the same room. And what you get is like a much more natural, real performance from the actors. Like they're actually in the space, relating with each other. I think there's nothing more effective in acting than when you have a good scene partner that you can react to, because that gives you all the energy and allows you to just be in a place where you're allowed to play. And I think that's why The Last of Us has like one of the best acting performances that we've seen in a video game. And I hope that we're going to see more and more games like that almost turn into interactive movies, you know, where the storyline and the acting is so effective that it can be entertaining for anyone who is into, you know, watching a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Other classic games that I always liked, and I like games that are kind of genre that are kind of new genre games. There's a game called Heavy Rain that came out a while ago.
Yeah.
Not too many people played it. Now, some of the voice acting is terrible in that game, but the way the game mechanics of it, it plays out exactly like an interactive movie. Like, you can't save and go back and do things differently. You end up playing as 5 different characters in a story, and the storyline can happen in like 20 different endings. Like, certain characters can die. All these different things happen based on dialogue. All of the actions that you do with your controller are kind of intuitive controls. There's a lot of dialogue based changing, and it's much more close to like it's a game that you can play through in 8 hours, and I think it's a game that the entire family could kind of enjoy. It was more of a prototype. I want to see bigger, better games that are like that. You know, it's this story about a guy who loses his son and is desperately trying to like find out where the kid is and get him back. And then there's different detectives that are involved. But just the game mechanics, I played through that game a bunch of times, and I hope that company comes out. They came out with a second game that was not as effective, but it was the same kind of game mechanics. But I'm really hoping to see another game come out that's similar to that. I'm pretty lame. Like, I usually play single-player games. Like, I don't play a lot of multiplayer games because I just get my butt kicked. Like Smash Brothers, I'm always just dying over and over again and pissing my friends off. Right now, I'm heavily entrenched in the new Deus Ex game.
Yeah. Mankind Divided.
Yeah, and I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I really dig those games where you can kind of either, you know, be the silent hacker, or you can just go in and just kill everybody. And there's a lot of political backstory, which is always interesting. Like, I'm just trying to keep up with the storyline, and I'll actually go in and read everyone's computer and read all the newspapers and like try to get really involved in the world. Those games excite me. Then on another level, I could talk about games for a while. I'm a huge fan of small indie games. I don't know if you guys ever played the game Journey.
I've heard of it.
No, I have too.
Yeah, it's a short game. You know, you can buy it on Steam or on the PlayStation Store for like $15. But it's artistic and beautiful, and I love the way that these kind of play stores have allowed indie games to thrive, because they don't have to you know, kowtow to a huge audience. You know, a lot of these new big budget games are trying to make sure that they cater to like 9-year-olds all the way up to 40-year-olds. And those games can be fun, but the games that get really engaging for me are these like small games that are allowed to take more artistic merit. You know, I'm really looking forward to more games that take that 8-bit structure of like a you know, almost the way that Minecraft, you know, doesn't put any time or energy into making really amazing graphics, but there's all these things that you can do and discover. And it's like taking the old classic games that we grew up with, but then making them more complex and more like we always wanted them to be, with like tons of weird secrets and strange things that can happen.
Yeah.
Gosh, off the top of my head, that's the first I can think of. Now, let's see, anime characters that I was really into. I'm a big fan of Space Dandy, which the English voice actor is one of my best friends, Ian Sinclair. So it's actually kind of hard for me to watch it in English, because I'm like, every time I hear his voice, I'm like, that's Ian. uh, but I'm a big fan of sci-fi, and that show, you know, I first of all I love the people behind it. They're the same people that did Cowboy Bebop, and they, you know, had a 2-season really strong episodes, and that that show really hits hard on awesome quality like sci-fi multiverse possibilities, and like I love shows that that really you can tell the writers have a history in sci-fi, because there's so much good sci-fi out there that really plays on different different ideas and themes that have been written over and over again and developed since the 80s, man. Since like the cyberpunk 80s sci-fi stuff started coming out, like shows that really pay attention to that. That's one of the reasons I love Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland. Like Rick and Morty could have easily been just another Futurama, but they play awesomely with the whole concept of actual science fiction, which is grounded in a lot of like theories that actual scientists have played with. You know, like actually talking about fourth dimensional travel and multiverse theory. That stuff excites me. You know, I was a big Douglas Adams fan growing up, and I don't know if you guys heard, but there's going to be a new BBC TV show called Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Oh yeah, sorry. Someone in the background just said, "Oh my God, are you serious?" Yeah. They're doing a TV show version of it. I hope that it doesn't suck, because that was one of Douglas Adams's less famous series of books. I think there was 2 or maybe 3 of them, but it's an awesome book. It totally is like out there and plays around with all sorts of mythology and sci-fi themes. Those are things like, you know, it's and I'm a terrible fan, you know, because I've watched all of Doctor Who and I've always enjoyed it, even though it's like super campy. But I can never call myself a good fan because I'm terrible at just remembering specifics about things. I'm never the guy that was like, oh yeah, that was episode 3 and he was wearing this and this happened.
Yeah, I always hear people talk about Doctor Who. It's just like it's really hard to get into because it's so long, and it's just like one of those series. It's like so long running. It's like, you know, where do I even pick it up?
Yeah, there's a few episodes with David Tennant that are one-offs that are good to like get people into it. But if you really want to appreciate it, you got to start back with the reboot with Christopher Eccleston. I mean, I'm such a nerd that I went back and I've watched a bunch of the, you know, the old 80s and 70s episodes, which you really gotta be into the storyline to just get through the campiness of them and their giant weird plastic monsters. But Tom Baker was such an amazing doctor, and his performance was so good. Especially if you see his cameo in they did a movie in between, like right after Matt Smith left, where they talk about the War Doctor. And I don't want to like spoil it or whatever, but Tom Baker makes this little cameo in the end, and it's just he's such a perfect doctor. Like I'm really excited about the new Doctor, Capaldi. I think is a great actor. He's going to be a perfect doctor. And Neil Gaiman has this wonderful essay where he kind of like retcons like an excuse for why we went from one doctor to the other after we went to the War Doctor. Because, you know, classically the Doctor is a grouchy, like asexual old man. And the original Doctor, he wasn't even the hero. He was like a bumbling oaf, like an angry, cantankerous man that would just get in the way and annoy everyone. But watching his growth, we had to go through all of these young versions of the Doctor. It was like him going through his midlife crisis to where we can get back to someone like Capaldi. And the last few seasons, like I hadn't been super excited with the writing, but I think Capaldi is like the perfect Doctor. I'm really hoping. I think they need to bring in some new showrunners. You know, David Moffat has done a really good job, but he's mixed up his Doctor Who and his Sherlock a little too much. And I think we need some new, fresh blood in there with like a quality season that actually leads to something like really effective. Like everyone remembers, the end of Rose Tyler and the moment between David Tennant and Rose Tyler. Like getting back to something that effective. I want to see that again.
Yeah. So I guess we should probably move on to number 7. Does somebody want to take question number 7?
I'll take number 7. If you had an opportunity to create your own series, what would it be like in your mind?
Oh, gosh, I'm just a lowly actor. I just read. I just read what's on the page. I don't write my own stuff. I've done some work with short films, and I've always been interested in more of the sci-fi element, playing around with versions of reality and the differences between waking life and sleeping life. So if I were to develop a show, it would probably be something that's more along the lines of an anthology series. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of the TV show Black Mirror. It's a new BBC show, but it's anthology, so each episode is a different story in and of itself.
I actually did hear about that last night, but I believe it's also on Netflix too.
Yeah, there's a few seasons on Netflix. I think they just came out with a new season. I don't know if it's on Netflix yet or not, but I want to, like, I've had this long-term goal of creating a series of short films that involve the voice actors that I work with, because all of us, we spend so much time behind the booth. It's rare that we get in front of the camera or get to act with other people. And so like we have a few ideas, and we want them to center around the same kind of universe where some of these characters like are slightly involved in each other's storylines, but that play around a lot with just, the concept of consciousness and reality. That's one of the it's one of the things I love about Westworld that just came out, if anyone's keeping up with that. And Westworld is actually, it's a reboot from a 1970s film. But some of the stuff that they're talking about is stuff that I've studied and looked into a lot. Gosh, I can ramble on forever about There's a book that influenced me a lot, and it's written by Julian Jaynes, and it's called The Breakdown of Consciousness and the Bicameral Mind. And let's see, it's hard to summarize exactly like what the book is, but it spends a lot of time trying to figure out what consciousness is or isn't. And it talks a lot about like how we went from, strange cave-dwelling creatures to humans that have complex ideas about spirituality and reality, and how this whole concept of religion and superior beings, that's it's, if you look at the way that the mind works, it's broken down into 2 parts. There's an abstract thought part, and then there's a part that learns how to like deal with language and relate to other people. And I love this whole idea of playing with what consciousness is and how it's been developed, and and how a religion and things like that have kind of structured our ability for complex thought. So I know that sounds very. I gave you a very esoteric, around the corner kind of answer to that.
It's some pretty deep stuff.
deep. But I do write poorly, but a lot of the things that I focus on and play around with are just especially because, man, I am a dreamer, and I'm a crazy dreamer. I have crazy lucid dreams all the time, and when I was a kid, I suffered sleep paralysis a lot. So I've always been really interested in the dreamscape and what part of your mind is being activated, and how much of that we can consider reality, and how it affects our waking life. So those are very broad answers. But if I was to develop a show, it would be a series of different stories that were all connected that played on this idea of what reality is. And the exciting thing is, how am I going to do that with my really crappy camera equipment, which is something that I'm playing with on a daily basis.
Yeah, it sounds almost like something from the Twilight Zone, something like that.
Yeah, I think Twilight Zone was a great precursor to Black Mirror and other things like that. But yeah. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, it's okay. But we should probably move on to question number 8. Does somebody want to take number 8?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Do you have any other voice actors that you appreciate in the industry? Any personal favorites to left off?
I love everyone. They're all so great. It's funny because when you do theater, you end up for 6 weeks surrounded by people that you might or might not know, and you end up getting very close to them, and they become your family, and you spend all your time with them, and you become best buds, and you do all your work together, and you create this thing together, and then the show ends, and then you all just leave, and you say you'll call each other back, but you probably won't. Whereas in the voice acting world, especially with anime and doing dubs, like, you're never in the booth with other people, so I've done so many great shows with other actors who I never got to meet or really work with. But just in my career, some of the people that have influenced me the most, I mean, Ian Sinclair brought me into the world and gave me my first start and taught me a lot of the early things. And so and he and I are completely different actors in the way that we approach a role. So it's always exciting to talk to him and learn from him, and I think we have a great symbiotic relationship in that. I like to say that Mike McFarland is my anime godfather. He gave me some of my best roles that allowed me to stretch myself out into new ways. He was the director for Tamo no Rin, Attack on Titan, and Tokyo Ghoul, and each of those shows taught me something. And that guy is so talented, and he can do so many things with his voice that just being in the same room with him, kind of, you absorb some talent just through osmosis. Now, and I haven't had a lot of experience with like LA actors outside of the Dallas industry. I go to cons, and so I have con friends. I love Matt Mercer and I love DC Douglas. Because they're awesome people, but we haven't necessarily like been involved in a lot of shows together, and I haven't gotten to see a lot of their work. But just as actors and people, they're wonderful to be around. One of my contemporaries, who started a little bit before me and is in my voice range, is Josh Greeley, and he and we have the same voice range. We're up for the same characters a lot, but that son of a bitch is so much better at changing his voice than I am. There have been so many times when I've been in the booth and I've heard some voice and I've been like, "Who is that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Josh." So I'm always impressed with his professionalism and his dedication and the amount that he learns and the knowledge that he has about anime in general. He's a writer too, so he's on the ball, and he's the sweetest, most humble person you've ever met, and he's just super talented.
Yeah. So I think we should probably move on. I'll read off question number 9. What type of conventions have you been to, and do you have any big plans to go to any upcoming cons to meet fans?
I think I've been to like almost every version of convention. So a lot of the conventions I go to are in, small towns where you have 1,000 to 3,000 people, and I end up doing panels where there's like 10 people in the room. It gets very intimate. But I've also been to, like Anime Expo or A-Kon, where there's like 20 or 30,000 people and the rooms are packed and there's a ton of people and you're in panels with people that are much more famous than you. which those panels are fun. It's always more fun to have a room full of people and to have a nice big autograph line where you get to talk to a lot of fans. But it's also like incredibly difficult to get anywhere, especially back to your hotel room for 5 minutes apiece before you go on and do your next thing. And then I've been to a few Comic Cons, which are always crazy and weird because like I don't necessarily. I've been in the con scene for like a year and a half, and when it started, it came out of nowhere. I mean, I was living in a van when I first started doing cons, and I got a con manager, and all of a sudden I was doing 3 cons a month for like 9 months straight. So it's just a blur of craziness. You know, some of it is work, a lot of it is really fun and exciting. Sometimes you have really emotional personal moments with people, and sometimes you have big ridiculous parties with people. And so it's always really enjoyable, and it's always very strange for me to walk into an atmosphere where people already know me and want my autograph. I still don't understand that. And you know, I come home from that, and my roommate and my mom and my friends are like, they still think they don't care. They haven't seen any of the work. They don't look at me any differently. But upcoming cons, next weekend I am going to KomoriCon in Portland, Oregon. And then the weekend after that, I'm going to Youmacon in Detroit. And then let me pull up my thingy-mabob. There's like something else I'm doing. Those are the first 2 big ones, and those are going to be really fun. I do a panel. It's really weird to do this panel at anime conventions, but it seems to work out. I do a panel called Raunchy Shakespeare, and Shakespeare is how I kind of learned how to be an actor. And I make other people come up and do it. So those are always huge fun. But yeah, I'm looking at my calendar, and yeah, those are the next 2 cons. I don't think I have anything else coming in the holiday season after that. So KomoriCon in Portland, Oregon next weekend, and the weekend after that, Youmacon in Detroit. Got to check them out.
Awesome. All right, so I guess we should probably move on to number 10. Somebody want to read off number 10?
I'll do it. As
All
a
right.
professional voice actor, are you also a fan of film, and are there any movies that have influenced your life or acting?
Yeah. I mean, I love film, and I watch movies all the time. Gosh, it's hard to pick one. There's this one movie that not many people have seen. It's called Upstream Color. It's very avant-garde. A lot of people didn't get it. It was created by a guy named Shane Carruth, who also plays the lead. And I've always been really impressed with the way that this guy worked. I discovered him when I was like in my teens, back when I would go to Blockbuster and look for like random weird movies that you haven't ever heard of or seen before. And his first movie was called Primer, and it's interesting because it was actually filmed at UT Dallas in the engineering department, and that's why I'm in Dallas. I actually moved to Dallas to become an engineer at UTD, and that didn't work out, so voice acting was my backup. But I remember I watched this movie as a kid, and then I went back and watched it again, and I was like, damn, this is all very familiar looking. And I realized like he filmed this whole thing at my college. But the thing that's so impressive to me, and this is what I love about Dallas as opposed to Hollywood or New York, is there's a ton of talented actors and artists here. And I believe that the way that technology is going, that if you have a good team of people and a quality story, you can make amazing artwork without a super budget. And this guy was so smart. When he did Primer, he did the whole thing on actual film, and he had zero budget. So he went in and called a bunch of different film development companies And he was basically like, listen, I'm thinking about buying a bunch of your film, but I want to test it out first. So can you send me some samples? And he called like 20 different companies and did that. And basically, he used all their sample film to create this movie. And the movie is about two brothers who create this box that can actually slow down, that can slow down and slow down time to the point where it goes backwards. So like you sit in the box for a day and you actually go backwards in time for a day. It's a really, really smart time travel movie, which is really hard to do. People usually screw it up with the time streams because of all the, because of all the, inaccuracies that you get when you try to mess with time. But I won't ruin the ending for anyone. But he made it with no budget. It starred him and his brother. And the footage is quality. The storyline is really great. I suggest you go out and watch Primer. So he did Primer when I was young, and then he disappeared for 10 years. And he came back, and he did this movie called Upstream Color, which is a really interesting movie. That it's basically about this. There's a few central characters. But there's this guy who discovers this certain type of plant that that harbors these worms that can allow you, if you if you drink the product of, I don't remember all the specifics, but basically it causes him to be able to mind control these people. So he's this thief that will go in and kind of dose you, and then everything you tell the person to do, they'll do, and then he goes and like robs their bank account and does all this other stuff. But the people are left like with their brains defracted, and the storyline, like the way he presents the narrative is very unique, and sometimes it's like hard to follow. Some people criticized it because of that. But the really the heart of the story are these two people who have both been affected by it, who end up coming together, and their brains and memories get scrambled as they try to like reassess what's going on. And it was beautifully shot. And again, it was done with no budget. One of my good friends, he plays the thief. His name is Thiago Martins. The movie was cast in Dallas with a super low budget. And Shane plays the lead in that too. So he's not like professional Hollywood, but he managed to create this really artistic, beautiful film out of nothing, which inspires me because I am poor and broke and trying to make something interesting and thought engaging. Aside from that, another person that I've always been really interested in is oh crap, what's his name? Shit. He did he's big in Hollywood now. He did the Batman movie.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
He did sorry, yes. Say it again.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Okay, he's another person who I discovered like in Blockbuster before he got a big budget. And the first movie he ever did was a movie called Following. Again, it had little to no budget, but it's super engaging. It's a black and white film, and it's basically about this guy who's walking down the street and suddenly realizes there's this other guy who's just following him around. And it uncovers all of this mysterious kind of subplot that he didn't know about, and he gets involved in all this stuff. But it was filmed very effectively, and that's where you can tell you had a quality director. So that was his first movie that kind of showed up. Following, I definitely recommend you check it out, because the movie he did after that, which is when he got a budget, was Memento. And Memento is an awesome film. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's the movie. It kind of goes backwards.
Yeah, it does go backwards. I love people that kind of play with narrative, because we've seen the same model of storytelling on film over and over and over again. And there's a place for those big budget movies. Those are still entertaining. I mean, I love to go see Pixar movies or Marvel movies. I think there's a place for that. But then there's now that we have greater ability with technology to do more for less money. We can play around, just like with the indie games. We can play around with narrative and without having to cater to a huge audience. But Memento did this great job. It's about a detective who gets his wife gets murdered and he gets injured in this during the scuffle, and so he loses his ability to gain new memories. So he's covered in tattoos to remind himself of what's happening, and he's trying to, as a detective, figure out the mystery of who killed his wife. But every morning he wakes up having no idea who, or no, like basically every like 30 seconds he completely forgets who he is or what he's doing. So he's like constantly got like sticky notes and like writing shit all over himself to like remind himself where to go. And it was filmed again really effectively, excitingly. And I think there are some people on the internet that re-edited it and did it in order, because yeah, the film goes backwards, and as it goes backwards, because of the way that they structured the narrative, they put you in his shoes, so you're constantly showing up in scenes having no idea why he's there or what is happening. And then at the end there's this big reveal. So that was just effective storytelling. I'm always really interested in movies that have an effective narrative arc, and that like have a button at the end that like actually brings meaning to the whole journey.
Yeah, like some huge emotional or some huge twist, pretty much.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a twist, but it's like a button. It's like tying a nice ribbon around the box before you like it's like poetry. Like some people can ramble forever about one topic and say a lot of really important things about it. And then there are other people like Mark Twain who can give you one sentence that unravels a huge amount of thought-provoking material.
Yeah. So I think we should probably move on to number 11. Any takers to read number 11?
I'll take it, I guess.
All right.
What are typical mistakes that you can make regarding voice acting?
Say that again?
What are typical mistakes you can make regarding voice acting?
Typical mistakes. Well, especially in the anime field, which I am in. I mean, the hardest thing to do is to figure out a line reading that sounds good, but then to be able to do it in a way that matches the flaps. So a lot of times there are pauses in the middle of sentences that don't make any sense, but you still have to like try to make sense of it. I remember in Guilty Crown, there was this one weird line that I never got, where he had to pause in the middle of the line, and it was something like the line was like "What in the hell?" but I had to like change it to like "What in the hell?" And it's just tiny things like that can like bug you forever. I think another trap that actors can fall into, especially actors that are used to doing theater, is walking into the booth with a preconceived idea of exactly how the character is supposed to be. Like, it's good to study up and to have an idea and to know the basic voice that you're going for and to play with that. But really, as voice actors, especially as anime English dub actors, like, our job is to pay tribute to the original show, to make an Americanized version of what the Japanese show was. And sometimes you can have a show like Shin-Chan where there's so much pop culture reference that you just have to turn it into an Americanized thing and change all the dialogue. But most of the time, like with Tokyo Ghoul, I really wanted to make sure that that I gave a performance that was close to what the Japanese originally intended. And the big thing about being an English dub voice actor is that you're a tool. I look at myself more as a studio musician than an actor when I go in there, because when I'm doing theater, it's me on stage, and once the curtain opens, it's my show. And it's all about me developing a reality with the people that I'm around, and it's about me making important decisions. But when I go into the booth, like, the real artist is the director. and it's my job professionally, especially kids starting off as voice actors. The last thing you want to do when you walk into the booth is for a director to give you a line reading or to give you a direction, and for you to go, I don't think my character would do that, because it's not your job. It's their job to put all these puzzle pieces together, and there's no way that you can accurately react to something that hasn't happened yet. Like if I'm in a scene where I'm arguing, like if I'm in a scene with Toka, and like I can look at the animation to kind of see where she's at emotionally, but if she hasn't recorded yet, I don't know what her intentions are, so I can't respond naturally to that. What I have to do is interpret what the director is looking for and give him the best give him the best possible color based on his description. A lot of being successful as a voice actor is learning the emotional language of the director you're working with, and basically giving them what they want and trusting in them, because really it's their show.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I suppose with that being said, we should move on to question number 12. I'll read that off. What's the hardest role you've ever played, and can you describe how and why?
I mean, Tokyo Ghoul was definitely the most intense role that I've ever played, because just vocally it required a lot of preparation. I would sit there with like whole cubes of ginger soaked in honey that I would chew on and spit out, and have to do a lot of vocal preparation to make sure that I didn't just ruin my voice. So that one was hard to get around, and just when we were recording it, we were actually doing season 1 and Route A at the same time. So I would go in there for like 5 hours, and I would spend the first 3 hours doing the season 1 voice, and then like the last 2 hours switching over to the season 2 voice, which is like a completely different feeling. So it was challenging just staying on top of that. Luckily, I have someone brilliant like Mike McFarland who's like, hey, you're out of voice. Let's do this again. Think about this. Let's hear a reference. Another difficult show that I did was, Defrag was kind of difficult, because the main character that I play, Kazuma, he is what you would call the comedic straight man. Like, he's not funny, but everyone around him is completely ridiculous, and he's kind of like the angry, petulant, like, why are you all so crazy? But he spends the entire show screaming. Like I would go in for hour-long sessions, and all I would do is just scream my head off, which tends to be the most difficult stuff to do. It's way easier when you have like a mysterious low character that just is quiet and is like, yes, come this way.
Yeah.
I would say up to date, and again, I can't tell you what the show is yet. I'm going to have to leave you in suspense, but there's a new show. It's coming out. It's premiering tomorrow. It required me to do a dialect that I haven't done before, and I'm not usually asked to do. He's a very cold, soft-spoken character that there's a lot of kind of complex emotion behind everything he says, but he's very quiet and straight to the point and says very little. So like trying to effectively like put all of these intentions inside really short lines while at the same time sticking to a dialect that I'm not used to was like, it's still challenging and scary. Like, I'll probably get off the phone and go study some more regional dialect movies just to try to keep up with it. I wish I could talk to you more about it, because it's going to be a super duper badass show that everyone's going to love. So please keep your eyes and ears peeled for a show that's coming out tomorrow. I believe they said it's premiering Sunday.
On the YouTube channel?
It should be on Crunchyroll or on Funimation streaming.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to look out for that one. But yeah, I would agree that like roles where you have to scream a lot, those I can see how they would definitely, your voice would be completely shot by, once you're done with that.
The Dragon Ball Z horror stories. Oh God, dude. The fact that someone passed out. Yeah, GT. The fact that someone at least passed out during that must be a pretty scary
It was
experience.
I never heard of
Goku's
that
voice
one.
act. It was Goku's voice actor when he was doing Super Saiyan 4 transformation. He passed out from all that
I
screaming.
thought it was 3.
Yeah, I thought it was
No.
3 too. I don't know.
No, it's actually misconceptions. It's actually 4.
Oh yeah, the Dragon Ball Z stuff is intense, and I've had to do a little bit of that for the video games. I'm in the next two. I'm in Xenoverse, and then the new Xenoverse coming out,
Woo!
and
Ooh.
Ooh.
that's always intense. But that just reminded me. Actually, there's a show called Tales of Zestiria, which is based on the video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was an original voice actor who played the video game version of this character. What's his name? What's my name from Tales of Zestiria? Anyway, he's I'm gonna look it up real quick. But that character, the things he does with his voice are ridiculous, and they kept booking me at like 10 o'clock in the morning, so I would come in like not super fresh with my voice and have to just do Lunare. Okay, so he's this crazy haired mad killer, and he cackles and does these incredibly high pitched screams all the time. Like that's all he's doing. I would suggest someone go listen to a clip of that because it's just weird.
I actually know who you're talking about because I played the game. I can see how that would be a challenging character to play.
Yeah, and the original voice actor, I know he played it a little. They had him play it a little more conservatively, but we're going based on like what the Japanese did in the new cartoon, and that son of a bitch screams like crazy. And it's not. There are certain screams that are easy on your voice. Like defrag wasn't actually too bad because it sits in the same place in my throat all the time, and a lot of the like power yell ups that you do aren't too bad. But this guy is like high pitched, up and down, really not natural to my voice. It was just every time I walked in the booth, I was like scared.
Yeah. So I guess that all being said, we should probably move on to number 13. Somebody want to read that off? Any takers?
Question 13?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take it. What is the best and worst thing about voice acting in your experience?
I mean, I guess one of the best things about it is that you get to play characters that you would never normally play on screen or on the stage. You know, I've played all sorts of different weird characters that don't look like me, and that's really exciting. You get to act with your shoes off and pajamas, and no one cares what you look like. And, you know, the other really amazing thing about anime in America is that it's been responded to so well that, like, the convention scene is, like, my new home. I mean, it's amazing to be able to be in an atmosphere where you have all of these people who are coming together for shared experiences and, like, complete acceptance. And they all really think everything you say is funny, which is nice. Those are the big perks. The difficult thing about voice acting, especially English anime dubs, is that it's a non-union gig. So and I say this as a cautionary tale to anyone who's trying to get into the business. There's almost pretty much no actor at Funimation that just does that. Like, there's no way that you can make a living just off that money. It's non-union. It pays a tiny, tiny fraction of what voiceover actors get paid in LA for prelay American shows. So it's a struggle, and it's part of the reason you got to go to conventions so often, because, like, just paying the bills can be difficult. And you never know, like, you might have one season where you got a bunch of characters, but then, you know, your voice gets too flooded in the market and people don't want to hear the same voices over and over again. So there might be a 6-month period of time where I don't get any roles and I have to like figure out how to just survive. Like the industry is difficult to maintain financial stability in. Everyone is always doing something else, whether it's like teaching classes or, if you're lucky enough, you might be able to get a commercial here or there. I'm represented by 2 different agents, so I do on-camera stuff as well. But and this is true for any actor. If you're trying to be a voice actor, then you're trying to be an actor, and if you're trying to be an actor, you have to hustle in any way you can, pick up any possible gig you can. And sometimes it's going to be degrading and demeaning, and sometimes they're going to say they're going to pay you and then they don't. And it's a huge struggle to get from just being like, even me, even though I'm like recognized and people know me, like it's still not to the point where like, there's financial security. That is the most difficult thing to deal with. For sure.
Yeah, it sounds kind of rough.
That's why people need to stop streaming off of sites and start buying DVDs, kids. Buy the DVDs. feed your local voice actor.
Have a voice actor foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
All right. So I think you already kind of answered a couple of these, but I think we should probably ask this too. Number 14, is there any future roles that you could perhaps talk about to get us excited?
Oh, God. It's so good. It's going to be so good. Oh,
yeah, you did talk about that one show.
That one doesn't count. You keep teasing us about that. That doesn't count.
I do not want to get in trouble. I will just say that it is going to be violent. It's a violent revenge story that is set in America and involves gangsters.
Oh, I know what you're talking. I won't say it, but I know what you're talking about. So we'll just. Okay.
So I'm real nervous. I'm hoping that the fans are going to respond positively to it. I'm working real hard to make sure that I pay justice to the voice. Gosh, what else is? I mean, most of the stuff that I've done is come out or is coming out. There's a show that I did with Sentai that was coming out in October. Again, I can't tell you what it's about, but it's about a love story. And that's all I'm gonna say. But those are the next 2 shows that are coming out that I play big characters in, and one of them's really funny, and the other one is just super, super badass.
Nice. We'll definitely be looking forward to that. So number 15. Does anybody want to read off number 15?
I'll do it. Can you name any funny and hilarious bloopers you had on set?
Most of them are not PG-13. Usually, we say the raunchiest, most screwed up things that we can say to someone when we bomb them. Which a bomb is where, like, if I come in before another actor's recorded, sometimes we'll improv a line that fits the flaps, and then the director will leave it in there, and then the next actor that comes in will, in their pre-roll, when they're getting ready to say their line, they'll usually get to hear the English lines coming right before them. So sometimes you can say some lines that will hopefully throw off the actor and make them laugh a bit. And Rico Fajardo was always really good at doing that to me during Princess Stride. My favorite one that I did to him that I'm allowed to say, because there's a bunch I did to Tia Ballard where I just said like really, really raunchy stuff that fit the flaps. And she's not one that's known to be someone who curses a lot. So I said very overly sexualized, terrible things to her that I hope screwed her up in the booth at least a little bit. But during during Princess Stride, there was this one moment, and if anyone's familiar with the characters, my character, he's the main character. He has a lot of natural talent. It's a show about parkour, and there are these like teams. It's a sports anime, and so the main character, he like has this natural ability in sports, so they convince him to do it. But he's like the goof off kid who never really tries, but is basically really good at it. And then the secondary lead, who's played by Rico Fajardo, very very talented actor. His character is like the really serious, tries all the time, doesn't mess around type of kid. And I guess I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's been out long enough. So you find out later that they actually had a relationship when they were younger, and his character was like overweight and out of shape. And so, not my character, but Rico's character. So he was always like struggling really hard to be like the best athlete that he could, and he like worked his ass off to get where he is. Whereas my character just kind of like stumbled into it and was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do this." Now, in reality, I am very unathletic and completely out of shape, and Rico is in is in brilliant shape. Like that kid actually can parkour hardcore. He does all these amazing physical things, and he's sculpted his body perfectly. But there's this moment in the show where we're both in the middle of this race, and like it flashes back, like his character stumbles for a second, and I stop for a second to pick him up and to like motivate him to get going. And he has this like flashback of being a fat little kid. And anyway, I'll try to get through this really quickly. So his character stumbles to the ground, has this horrible flashback, and I'm supposed to come up to him and say something really inspiring. And it was something like, "You can do it." And I walked up and whispered, and I go, "You're not fat." And that that broke Rico really hard. So I was proud of that.
All right, so does anybody want to take the last question?
I will.
All
In
right.
closing, is there any more tips you would give for aspiring voice actors?
There's a bunch. We could talk about that for a long. Hold on, let me text this dude real quick and tell him not to call me back.
That's fine.
Hang on one sec. There's a problem with Skyping on your phone. So I could talk about that for a long time. There's a lot of techniques that I used. If we want to get into specifics, but first and foremost, if you're trying to get into the voice acting world, especially if you're trying to get into anime English dubs, you kind of have to be in Texas because that's where the majority of it is going on. And then once you're there, first of all, continuously be taking acting classes. You have to be taking acting classes. You can't. There's no actor out there doing voice acting who is not learning to be an actor in other ways. And there's so many techniques to learn to help you get in the mode that you're in. For people that are writing stuff down, a huge help for me, I did a month-long intensive with a company called Shakespeare and Company outside of Boston, Massachusetts, run by Tina Packer. They do a lot of different techniques, and there's a lot of different methods. There's what's called the Linklater method, which was developed by Kristen Linklater. She has a book called Unleashing the Natural Voice, and it can give you a lot of really great information about how to be aware of your body and how to use your body properly and to its full extent so you can expand your range and be comfortable kind of just speaking and responding naturally to stimulus. On top of that, there's other methods. There's the Alexander method, which is incredibly useful. And then there's another one called Feldenkrais, which is spelled German. Forget how you spell it. But Feldenkrais is, if you can find a teacher out there or a class, it's a wonderful class that teaches you how to make incredibly violent sounds with your voice without destroying it. And acting is like a muscle. It's like an athletic experience. You have to keep going. You have to keep doing. And that's why theater is one of the great things that you can get involved in, especially small community theater, because you can go out there and you can fail over and over and over again. And every time you fail, you learn something new. So that's just on the side of learning how to be an actor, which you need to continually work on. Professionally speaking, when you want to get into the industry, you need some things that you get together. I suggest trying to put together a character reel, which shows, and all of your demo reels should be an MP3 file that is a minute or less, that shows reasonable versions of different voices that you can do. You can throw in some dialects, you can change your pitch a little bit, but don't try to imitate famous characters. Don't do a Peter Griffin or an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody needs that or wants that. Have a character demo ready, and the really spiffy kids out there, they'll be able to find a friend with a nice microphone. And if you are good with, the internet and with, there's a great free program called Audacity that can help you edit the sound. Like, if you can throw some sound effects in the background to make it sound more realistic, that's always great. Another thing you really want to get, even if you're just trying to get into anime, is a commercial demo reel. And this is, again, a minute-long reel and you should just go and listen to a bunch of different commercials, listen to things that are in your voice range. Like, for me, it would be like a Nike sports commercial where, like, I'm really serious, like, get into the zone, check it out. And then there's like a Doritos commercial where, like, oh man, this is totally awesome. So find those things. Yeah, find those things that within your range. You can even go in and, like, steal some copy from other commercials and just pretend like you actually recorded that commercial. Throw some sound effects in the background that make it sound like like you can pretend that you're a fake interviewee on a cell phone commercial. You could have some background pull some background noise of, like, people on the streets, and then you on top saying, like, since I switched to Verizon Wireless, my life got a lot easier. Stuff like that. So you want to have those reels together. Then if you have anything on your resume that you can pump up, even if it's a college thing, try to make it not look like it's from college, but put as many things on there as you can. Put together a professional resume. There are online resumes you can use as templates. And then write a cover letter. The cover letter needs to be less than 2 paragraphs long. That's just a short introduction, and it's a short introduction of yourself and how you're interested in potentially working with an agency. You got to get an agent, basically. If you want to get in with Funimation, you need to get an agent. You can take your demo reel and you can submit it to Funimation, and there are very few people that actually made it doing that. But they've got like 1,000 submissions that one intern gets to listen to every 6 months when they're trying to, like, so your chances of actually getting listened to are small. You want to submit to an agency, and when you submit to an agency, you want to put together those things. You want to have a hard copy of your demo reel, a hard copy of a resume, and a hard copy of a cover letter that is concise and professional and presents you as a product. It's exactly like applying for any other job. There's the artistic side of being an actor, but more than anything, you are a business owner that's selling a product, and you want to present yourself in a professional manner. I always say be polite, professional, and persistent. So put that thing together, make 1 million copies of it, find every agency that you can find, and then start mailing those out. And they might get thrown away, they might not get looked at. If you don't hear anything back, wait 4 months and send it again. Maybe send a short email saying, I sent in my resume. I'd love to have the opportunity to talk to someone about future opportunities. Then, while you're doing that, there are online submission websites where you can submit yourself for weird, small indie projects. I forget all the names, and you can Google these. There's one that's called, I think, Voices, and there's one that's called Voice123. And in these, you can upload a profile of yourself with your demo that people can listen to. But you can also see a list of audition possibilities. So you can start auditioning for random things, and sometimes it'll be some small thing for some indie game, and someone's like, "Hey, I want to pay someone $20 to say these lines." And it might not be a lot of money, but it's a resume builder, and it's going to start getting you out there. There's a ton of different websites that you can start putting yourself in there. There's a casting network website, and all these things are Googleable. So you can go and check these out and research these. There's also a great website that I forget who the actor is, but there's an actor that, because we get this question all the time. There's an actor that put together a website, and I believe the website is howtobeavoiceactor.com. And he updates it pretty regularly, and it's basically his whole story about how he got into the industry. So it's a great way to just start getting some background information. And if you happen to be in the Dallas area, I would suggest applying to as much community theater as possible, and getting into as many acting classes as possible, because that's when you're going to start meeting the same people in the same universe. And a lot of this stuff is done through personal relationships. If you can show up at a place, show that you're proficient at what you're doing, and don't be desperate. People can smell desperation a mile away, and they'll run from it. But be polite and persistent, and be yourself, but be the nice version of yourself. A lot of people think that networking means showing up at a convention and giving people all of your stuff and asking for opportunities. But really, networking is showing up at a place and proving to a person that you have something that they need. The reason I started working for Sentai Films is I was at a convention with Chris Ayers, and we ended up in a conversation about stuff, and he realized that my voice was in the range of a character that he was trying to cast. And so because we had a nice, normal conversation where I wasn't pushing him about being a director or being fake nice to him because I knew he was a director, we were able to kind of get a personal relationship. And then basically my agent gave me a call, and they were like, "Hey, they're interested in auditioning for you." And then that's how I ended up in Cross-Ange.
I actually didn't know you were in that series.
Yeah, I play the dude. But I've been at this for over 12 years. And I took college classes. I got a BA in it, and rejection is the name of the game. Even today, 99% of the things that I audition for, I don't get. So get used to that and use it as fuel for the fire. Don't let it get you down. You have to get really used to being rejected and being okay with that, and understanding that just because you're not cast in something doesn't mean you're terrible. It just means that you weren't right for that specific thing. Again, This is assuming that you are prepared. So it's a sport. It's an athlete. It's an athletic thing. It's something that you have to consistently work on and do every day. And some of those things that I listed, they will give you exercises that will continue to strengthen parts of your body. If it wasn't for all the work that I'd done before Tokyo Ghoul, there's no way I would have been able to create those sounds within the time that I was able to do it. And a lot of people think, they sit alone in their room and, they practice doing one thing for a long time, and they suddenly get a nice little sound, and they think like, "Oh, I'm good at doing that." Well, it's like, I can sit here and make a nice meal, but it's going to take me like 2 hours to poach an egg and put together an eggs Benedict. But a professional cook has to do it 10 times in 20 minutes. And that's what it's like once you get professionally. You have to get to the point where, you're one character 1 second, and then 30 minutes later, you're another character, and you're constantly working, and you're constantly taking care of your voice. So it's a lot of work. And the more time and effort you put into it, the better chance that you have. There's a famous quote out there that says that every actor within a 20-year time span gets the same amount of opportunities. And I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So you got to be prepared at all times and patient enough to find that opportunity that's going to give you that break.
Yeah, definitely some good advice. So it was a pleasure having you on, Austin. this is probably the end where we're going to give our outros, and that's basically just where each of us plug our social media, like basically where you can find us. I think since Austin is the main focus here, if you want to go first, just where can we find you on social media?
Cool, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. It was great talking at you.
No problem, man.
Me ramble for a while. Please, everyone that's listening to this, check me out on Twitter. It's just at Austin Tindle. So hopefully that's easy to remember. And then Instagram, I'm trying to pump up more stuff. That's the best place to find out information about cons and stuff. My Instagram name is at Austin Tindle. So that's easy to find. And then please go to Facebook and like my fan page. You can just search Austin Tindle and you'll find the fan page. I think the actual link is like Facebook/the real Austin Tindle. But if you just search Austin Tindle, you'll see me, and it's a picture of me with some fans. So go like my page and like my thing. Follow me.
Awesome. I suppose I'll just go on down the line here. Renegade, do you want to give your outros or where you can find you at?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So you can find me on Twitter at RentOperative_. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative, where I will be uploading various playthroughs, rants, reviews, all that good stuff.
Yep. And next we have you, Kirby.
You can find me on Twitter at DarkChaosXX. You can find me on Twitch under UU Kirby, where I'll be streaming this Thursday. I should be beginning the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan game 7th Stand User, and you can find me under YouTube under UU Kirby as well.
Awesome. Devil Hunter James.
You can find me on Twitter at DevHunterJames, twitch.tv/TheHeroJames.
Cool. Kaneki.
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube on the same name as Google Order, and I really love this interview.
Yeah, it was definitely a great interview. And last but not least, actually not last, but Brandon, where can we find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and YouTube as Hurricane Magic 504, and I really enjoyed this interview. Thanks for coming, Austin.
Yeah, man, thanks again. And last but not least, myself, you can find me Twitter at Captain Chaos, and you can also find me on YouTube by the same name. I upload a lot of gaming content, mostly unboxings and reviews. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, check me out. And you can also find me on here at the Cooperative Experience. And again, Austin, it was great having you on. We would like to have you on again if you're ever available. Just, let us know. Hit us up.
Cool, that's awesome. Oh, crap, I just forgot. I have a YouTube channel, too. It's just Austin Tindle. Check it out. Usually I just use it to post when my next conventions are, but I've had some requests for some videos, so I'm going to start. Anyone that goes on Twitter, and if you guys have any specific questions, I'll start videotaping some more YouTube videos. And so go check out the ones that are there now. Some of them are silly. Some of them are actually entertaining. So check it out.
Yeah,
and thank you guys so much for having me. I'd love to come back sometime.
No problem, man. Yeah, definitely let us know.
It's great to have you, Kaneki.
Yeah, it was.
Cool. Thank you, guys. You have
problem,
a great
man.
day.
Take care.
You too.
Take care, man.
All right. You guys have a good one.
You too, man.
You too.
Peace out.
Peace.